Williams, thank you for tuning in to Friendship Community Church Women's Conference 2020 Virtual Edition. Today, I'm sharing the stage with three amazing and talented women who will be participating in today's discussion. I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. First.
Hi, I'm Dr. Cherish, Trent Simmons. I'm a board-certified OBGYN practicing in the Camp Creek area since 2011, and my husband and I practice at Prestige Healthcare Atlanta.
Great. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Janae Francis. I'm a psychotherapist. I've been licensed for 12 years. I'm licensed in Texas and Georgia. I now serve virtually, and I also serve as a clinical care team member with Windshape Homes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is LaShonda Fugelaire, and I am a financial services specialist. I am a corporate investment banking managing director at the Wells Fargo Bank platform, and I have been in the industry for about 18 years. I'm a CPA and a chartered financial analyst.
Awesome. Well, ladies, let's get this conversation started. Now, we all know as women, we want to make sure that we got our coins together, right?
Right.
So let's kick this topic off and talk about financial. Now, LaShonda, in this season of economic instability, uncertainty, should we still be investing in our 401ks and IRAs, or do we just need to pump the brakes for a minute? What are your thoughts on that?
So, Kathy, I would say it's a fair question. I'm sure it's crossed a lot of people's minds because obviously in this environment with all the uncertainty, there's a lot of stress and a lot of strain on your financial resources. However, I am always an advocate of saving. One of the biggest challenges people have encountered in this situation, this environment, is that there's no savings. They've found research shows that the average family has less than $300 saved. And so they live from paycheck to paycheck. And anytime you have any sort of interruption in your income, it has a catastrophic effect on people's personal lives. So I'm absolutely an advocate. Now, there are times where you cannot afford, you may actually need that last dollar to cover your living expenses, but generally speaking, make every sacrifice you can first. So, and I'd say in particular, if you have a 401k, your company sponsors a 401k, and they actually match, that is an investment worth making because it's essentially free money. For every dollar that you contribute, they will contribute another dollar. So for example, if you invest $100 of your pay, they will match and give you $100. You have doubled your income. It hasn't been that good since you left your parents' house. Has anybody given you free money like that? And you also receive a tax deduction. Now, I understand in times like these, you may not be as focused on the taxes you have to pay, but if you can make some sacrifices, maybe one less nail appointment, maybe not getting your hair done in the COVID environment, you'd be surprised where you can save money on personal care. And then if you can put that money aside, it will pay off for you later. If you have a job you love, you can work longer for less. If you don't love your job like many in America, you can retire earlier. But just being prepared for what will come down the pike is important, and investing early is the key.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, LaShonda has shared with us how we can get our financial house in order. But what's the point in having our financial house in order if we can't enjoy the fruits of our labor? And Dr. Cherish, let me come to you. How do we ensure that the medical needs of women are, one, acknowledged, and one, those needs are actually met?
Okay, so with COVID-19, some people have lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. Some people have been outside of the realm of getting transportation to appointments. Some medical clinics have closed. Some of them have actually lowered their number of days in the office. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that people are still contacting or reaching out to their providers to see if they're offering other services. For example, telehealth services. A lot of businesses that did not do telehealth services are actually able to do those now. without worrying about insurance payments because the insurance companies actually recognize that we need these services.
Right.
Some people are scared to come to the doctor because of the COVID-19, the fear. But do rest assured that people have been putting in place provisions that are allowing us to come into those offices, still getting the care that they need, still getting the preventive care. You're still able to get things like birth control. Surgeries have been put off because those may not have been necessarily necessary at the time, but you're still able to get those items that you need as far as your health care. And it's important to continue to contact your providers to make sure that they are available for you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. You touched on the elephant in the room, coronavirus, AKA COVID-19. And I was looking at a segment on TV the other day, and they talked about broken heart syndrome. And I had never heard of that term. And it's an actual diagnosis. And I want to get it right because this really intrigued me. It said broken heart syndrome is a group of symptoms similar to that of a heart attack, occurring in response to a physical or emotional stress. Now, we know with COVID-19, it has been a lot of stressful situations. And Janae, let me ask you, what guidance can you give to women regarding options for their self-care?
You know, self-care is a term that's currently trending. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But it's not an isolated thing. It's not a one-time happening. In a perfect world, you'd want it to become your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so self-care looks like developing, I say, a formula for yourself that works. It's a formula for yourself that will help you to relax. It's coping skills. It's healthy additives that your mind and your body needs.
Right.
And so self-care are some examples of such. And I don't know, maybe you ladies have your own personal routine, but some examples of such is meditation, right? Taking a walk, deep breathing, stretching. It's whatever it is that calms your soul and calms your spirit, and it should be a lifestyle. And I recommend that people find a formula that they can implement on a consistent basis. I'd say daily, but you know, consistent is important for taking care of yourself. Self-care is taking care of self first.
Oh, I like that.
I
like that.
And I think it's interesting. We think of self-care, at least as I've started to hear this term more recently, and I feel like it almost takes me to, spa treatments and manicures and pedicures. And while I love all those things, I think it somewhat goes against what I was saying earlier about managing our expenses. So I love that you mentioned some free ones. Meditation is free, and that walk in the neighborhood is also free. So I love that there are some inexpensive self-care options.
And
Thank you.
There are some options. You hear me time, me time,
Yeah.
me time,
Right.
me
Yes.
time. So it's taking care of me in a different way.
Right.
From the inside out and
Yeah.
not the outside in.
I like that.
And also thinking about, the health aspect of it, yoga, exercise, dancing. Those are really good for not just clearing your mental state, but also getting yourself heart healthy.
Right.
That's right.
Right. That's good. That's good. LaShonda, I want to go back to you now. I want to ask you, what has been your observations in this climate of COVID-19? How has this virus impacted, one, women in general, and two, let's bring it a little closer to home and talk about how it has impacted women of color.
Yes. So if I start broadly, we've all seen obviously the unemployment numbers and where those have gone, and there are something like there have been as many as 40 million people unemployed in the U.S. Well, when you look closely, you dig into those numbers and you see the jobs that have been lost and that have been reclaimed over the last several months. They've gone up in terms of reclaimed jobs, but not to the extent of the jobs that were lost, especially among women. So of all the jobs that were lost between February and June, only about a third of those jobs have been reclaimed. And when you look at the unemployment rate the difference between women and men, the unemployment rate for men was in the, call it 10% range, with women being 11.1%. And then when you dig a little deeper and you break it down to women of color, African-American women, unemployment rate is 14%, and Latino women 15% compared to males average of 10%. So there's a very disproportionate impact that COVID has had
That's
on
eye-opening.
exactly on the female population. And we probably all know someone who's been impacted. And some of the reasons for that are just the roles that many women play. Women are often in government services roles. Women are in leisure and in hospitality. And those areas have been impacted the most, and it's impacted the women the most. And then we haven't seen the same recuperation. There are a couple of other industries, one in particular, retail, where women make up a little less than 50%. Yeah. However, they were 60% of the number of people who lost their jobs. So there's even a disproportion there. Women have definitely been impacted. Then you think about how women often make up a lot of the child care responsibilities, or they take up a lot of those. And so that's an additional burden on women and how they're impacted. Sometimes it influences whether they can come back to work, whether they can keep that job, whether they're more competitive for the role. So women have absolutely been impacted. We've got to think about some ways on how we make a difference. How do we minimize that impact on women and women of color?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And we've all heard the term Black Lives Matter, but I want to put out there women's lives matter. And Janae, I know we as women are extremely busy. We want to be everything to everybody. How important is rest? Mm-hmm. That elusive rest. How important is rest for our well-being?
Contrary to what you may hear otherwise, sleep and rest is so important. Yeah. 7 to 9 hours is recommended, and it's the body's way of healing itself, of recuperating, and not just the bodies, but specifically the mind. And so making sure that you are making a priority to sleep and to rest your body is so important. And oftentimes I hear people say, I'm too busy to sleep, or, I can't sleep. Insomnia is something that affects women a lot more than men. Studies have shown that. And it's one of those things, our minds are always going. We're always trying to figure out how we can manage taking care of home and children and our social lives and our careers and how to balance it all. And oftentimes these things keep us awake. One thing several things that I recommend for people who need help learning how to sleep is to establish a nighttime routine. And so do the same thing. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, whether it's the weekend or the weekday, right? Establish a sleep routine, which may include stretching or taking a bath or a shower.
Including aromatherapy.
Aromatherapy.
Self-care.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
A gratitude journal at night to really reflect on things that we're grateful for, to kind of clear our minds and put our minds in a different space. Unplug, turn off the TV. Turn off your cell phone. Put everything away. Social media. Because you'd be surprised the amount of people who cannot sleep because of the phone dinging.
Right.
I can't sleep, but my phone goes off all night.
Right.
Right. And so it's one of those things. Preparing yourself and making sleep a priority by establishing healthy practices is so important.
I love the idea of creating a schedule, because you think about, you mentioned it's, women and how we keep our minds alert, thinking about all the things we have to do. And one of those big things is the children. We create a schedule for the children.
Right.
They have a bedtime routine. They've got to have a bath and a story, dinner in a certain order, and they go to bed at a certain time. Why wouldn't we do the same things for ourselves? I never thought about it, but it makes perfect sense.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that is a great idea. Dr. Cherish, thinking about women now and this COVID-19, talk to us about how this virus has affected women's sexual and reproductive health.
Okay.
Candid conversations.
So, everybody knows that COVID-19, you can get it from being too close to people, from coughing, sneezing, breathing. Studies have also shown that you can pass COVID-19 through saliva, so kissing, being intimate with each other, can definitely affect you. You still have to take precautions. If you're going to be intimate with someone, the safest person to be intimate is with somebody who is actually in your household, somebody that does not have any medical conditions, either yourself or the person. You might choose not to perform it or engage in any intimate activities because you can put that person at risk. There are other options. There's virtual dating. So a lot of people, don't really think about that. But you can virtual date. You can cook. You can do playlists. You can play board games. You can have a glass of wine. So you can still have that intimate connectivity with somebody without physically being with them. But for those who have partners that are, in the household, you can do other things, that allows you to be closer in the sense of you're not working, you're spending more time with them. You can connect in other ways. You can go on those hikes. You can, read to each other. You can sing to each other. You can spend that extra time with each other. One thing that we definitely need to make sure that is not missed is if you're going to be intimate with people, then you still need to take precautions as far as sexually transmitted infections. There have been some studies that shows that COVID-19 also lives in semen and other bodily fluids. So you want to make sure that you're using barrier protection, such as condoms. Some people may say, well, I don't have any birth control, or how can I get my birth control? I haven't been able to get in to see my doctor. You have to think about other alternatives.
Right.
If you can't get your birth control pill, then maybe you have to use other types of methods.
Right.
Or if you, didn't get your IUD removed when it should have been,
Right.
you have to think about other alternatives,
Right.
even emergency contraception. You can get those over the counter. They're in every pharmacy, every, Walgreens, Target, they all have them over the counter. You don't need a prescription for those. If you can't get in to talk to your provider or get a, prescription called into your pharmacy, then those are options that you can do.
Yeah, we just have to get creative.
You have to
That's
get
a lot of creative
Yeah.
ideas. Yes. LaShonda, I want to go back to you. We touched on COVID throughout our discussion thus far. Talk to us about how women can prevent from being left behind when the COVID-19 dust settles.
Sure. So I alluded to this earlier. I think one of the biggest challenges women face, in addition to obviously the unemployment situation, is also just the responsibilities at home. You think about the child care responsibilities. A lot of the domestic responsibilities still, for some reason, fall traditionally to the woman in the home. And so I laughed and kind of cried a little bit about it too during the late spring when I said, I was a full-time banker and a full-time virtual teaching assistant, and I'm not sure which one I was doing well, if either, at any point in time. And all of that can be extremely stressful and also can leave you at a disadvantage relative to your peers if you're, for example, working in corporate America and they don't have similar distractions. Or if you are an essential worker and you can't be at home, but you don't have childcare, all of that significantly impacts women in society and in this economy. So one of the things that I think we'd love to see as an investment from the government and from the leadership is in more childcare options, more support for those who do need to leave the house to support their family, especially you think about the single parent households where it's sole income, you're an essential worker, you've got to be there in person, but not having the childcare can prevent you from being the provider that you need to be for the family. And that leaves women in that situation we're talking about, not having the money to save, not having the $300 saved, not being able to do any of the things that we're talking about, let alone self-care, but being able to get to a physician, being able to cover any of those health care expenses. Obviously, things always come back to money in our society. And so having that childcare and having that support, in addition to the stimulus check and the other things that they're pushing, that can make a difference where people can support themselves and continue to live a somewhat normal life.
That's good, LaShonda. Now, that's a good segue into, Janae, my next question for you. Do you think, just thinking about from your observations, do you think companies will have a renewed emphasis on offering more mental health benefits for their employees?
I think that some will. And I think that some already have. And so I've definitely seen a shift in mental health benefits, increase in employer assistance programs, where EAP is a benefit that allows employees free mental health service, but not just for the employee, but for anyone living in their home. And so I have already seen an increase, and I'm encouraged that it will continue to swing that way. I mean, you see messages from the CDC even that recommends that employers are tuning in to the mental health needs of their employees.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's encouraging. That is really encouraging. We know it's almost time for back to school, right? And there's been so much banter back and forth over the last couple of weeks about how do we get our kids back into school? Do we allow them to go back to the classroom in person? Do we do virtual learning? Do we do a hybrid? Dr. Cherish, can you talk to us about what type of precautions should women be taking so they won't feel guilty about putting their kids maybe in harm's way as it comes to going back to school?
Right. So we were just talking about that. It's all a personal decision. And I think we all have to be well-informed. I think that our school administrators need to make sure that they have certain things in place. For example, are they going to be staggering lunches? Are the kids going to be eating lunches in the actual classroom? Are they going to be moving around from class to go to their specials? Are they going to be moving around to go to PE? Are they going to be passing other classes that are going at the same time? Are they going to stagger the start time or end time for each school day? I think it's going to be a personal decision. I know what I do in my household. I don't know what she does in her household. Some of the teachers may have an issue with going back to school. You may have a teacher who may be immunocompromised in some way. Maybe she's had breast cancer, maybe she's been on chemotherapy, or maybe she has, diabetes or some other concern.
Right.
And putting her back into the classroom can not be, a good idea, because the kids, as we all know, kids bring germs, and it's going to be hard for kids to social distance. Are they going to be wearing masks all day long? How do they keep their hands off of each other? We also have to look at the hygiene. Is each classroom equipped with sinks where kids can wash their hands for 20 seconds? What about the desk size? What about the class size? Are you going to have enough kids in each classroom and have enough teachers to instruct them? So I think it's going to be tough. I wouldn't want to be in that position to try to figure out what to do.
I even heard someone say, we don't know the long-term ramifications of the kids wearing the mask.
We don't.
I know just me wearing the mask at my job, it gets hot, and I'm pulling it down. So I can just imagine how our little kiddos would be trying to do that.
Can you really keep 6- and 7-year-olds wearing masks all day? I look at my son, I'm like, put your mask back up. Like we're walking around the store and he wants to get a closer look at something. And, it's just going to be a tough decision. And I think it's just going to be a personal decision. You have to look at who's in your household.
Right.
Do you have people that in your household that could potentially be immunocompromised if they were to come into contact with, a student who had a fever that day?
Right. Well, LaShonda, I'm going to wrap it up, this conversation, with asking you this last question. In this current climate of renewed awareness and the desire to have more open dialogue, we're seeing a lot more open dialogue. How do we get women to a position that they can have a seat at the table and bridge the gap of this gender inequality in not only local business, but also global business?
So I will try not to get on my soapbox. You can imagine we've had a lot of conversations. I mentioned, I work in a large corporation, and we know that every corporate in America and around the globe now is woke, and everybody wants to have the conversation especially with their Black team members. And when you work at a company where there are only a couple Black people, you have a lot of conversations with a lot of people. So I will keep it brief, but there are a couple things I'll highlight, and I'll highlight, from the female perspective and from the woman of color perspective, obviously. There are a couple things in particular that I feel like corporates have been working on for a while that we've seen some progress on, and that's the gender pay gap in particular is one, and it's basically the difference in pay between a woman and a man performing the same roles. So if you don't control for the different types of jobs that women have versus men, the gender pay gap is about 18 cents. So a woman makes 82 cents for every dollar that a man makes, and a woman of color makes 75 cents for every dollar that a man makes. So it is extrapolated even further when you look at women of color. It exacerbates the divergence. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up over time. And just for women in general versus men, that calculation is an average of about $900,000 over their working lifetime. $900,000 more that a man would make than a woman because of this pay gap. If you control for the same types of roles, and that means we know that oftentimes women are in lower paying roles. Women don't have, to your point, a seat at the table. They're not in the C-suite. And if you control for just the women that have the exact same job as the man, they still make usually 2 cents less, women versus men, with no difference in education, no difference in work experience, no difference in the role or performance, but they still make 2 cents less just due to bias or for no reason that can really be determined. And then if you look at women of color, it's 3 cents less. So we always still make less than everyone else. And that is a huge disparity that needs to be addressed. There are a lot of firms that are taking some steps to make progress on that. They're measuring it, they're tracking it, and trying to close the gap. And then I'd want to look at it also from a business owner perspective. When you think about women who own their own businesses, you own your own practice. And for women-owned businesses, there's a discrepancy there between women of color and white women, where women of color businesses comprise about 50% of all female-owned businesses, but we generate about 25% of the total revenue. So we're half the businesses, but we only generate 25% or only make 25% of the money that white-owned, women-owned businesses make. And it's hard to explain the differences, but the numbers are what they are. So as you think about ways to create more equality, consumers are encouraged to support a Black business. We talk about this in our community, support a Black business, support a Black woman-owned business. Vote with your dollars. And then also retailers are being encouraged and are speaking out about creating shelf space for these Black-owned businesses so that they can have access to the consumer. For example, you shop at Publix. Publix has a following. If the Black-owned business has their product on the shelf at Publix, they have exposure to a broader market. So leveraging the retailers to make the products accessible to a broader, more diverse market, to put that money into this community and help close the gap.
Oh, wow.
That's good, good
awesome.
information.
That is awesome. Well, ladies, this has been a wonderful conversation with you all. And I do want to just take a moment to give you all an opportunity. We know that this is Women's Month 2020 here at Friendship. And the focus, of course, is women. I want to give each of you an opportunity to just say any parting words or any encouraging words that you would like to leave for the women that are tuning in today. Dr. Cherish?
Well, I just want to make sure that women know that they are loved, they are special, and that they deserve respect. So throughout all of this, we need to make sure we're practicing self-care. We need to make sure that we're keeping our health in check. We need to make sure that we're keeping our dollars and supporting, as she said, other Black-owned women businesses or Black businesses. We want to make sure that we are taking care of our own.
That's good. That's good. Janae?
I would just say that I want women to just always be aware of self and stay in tune with your bodies, stay in tune with your minds. We take on a lot. We manage children, families, homes, careers, friends, and I think just historically, women have always just taken on more and more. Yes. And so we have to be very careful. We have to know our limits. Yes. We have to be able to say no and be able to recognize when our bodies are letting us know that we're in overload. Yes. And so my encouragement is to just stay in tune with yourself, take inventory of how you feel. And I would encourage, if you're feeling anxious or depressed or stressed, to just admit that, A, and then B, look into resources to be able to get some support with that.
Oh, awesome. That's good.
Excellent.
That's good.
And in keeping with the theme of self-care, I would just encourage all of us as women and women of color and Black women to take care of ourselves and take care of our finances. Make sure that we are financially taken care of. To the points that were earlier made, we can handle so much, and we've proven that over generations. There's nothing that we can't do. We are a powerful people, and that should can be conveyed in every aspect of our lives, including the financial aspect of it. Absolutely. And money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. But money creates opportunity, and it creates opportunity for us to do things like this, to share our wisdom with others, to provide to those who are less fortunate, who don't have. So I don't think we should ever be ashamed or be embarrassed about having money or focusing on money. It allows us to give back to the community and to the church. So we should think about that and continue to care for ourselves. And then the last thing I would say on the self-care front, a little bit aside from the financial aspect of things, I think this panel is a prime example of just all the resources we have in our community. We have women who know so much and have so much knowledge to impart and wisdom to share. Let's leverage that in our networks and in our community.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, again. And thank you for joining our virtual audience Friendship Community Church Women's Conference 2020, the virtual edition. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Here is this week's news. In addition to giving electronically through the giving kiosk, the church website, or through your personal online banking system, Friendship also offers a text giving option. Simply text your giving amount to 404-948-5006. Tithes and offerings can also be mailed or brought to the church Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday Manna Prayer Call resumes in September. Join us for Bible study each Wednesday this summer at 7 p.m. and experience it again or even for the first time. A special summer selection of awesome teaching and preaching from Dr. Daly will be featured, as well as several Friendship guests. Wednesday, New Generation Children's and Youth Bible Study will resume in September. Virtual book discussion of The Long Fall by Walter Mosley on Thursday, July 14th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Please check weekly email for additional information. The Adult Ministry is hosting a trip to the new Black Wall Street Market located in Stonecrest, Georgia on Saturday, July 16th, 2022 from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. The new Black Wall Street Market is a destination for family fun, entertainment, retail, gourmet grocery shopping, and fine dining. Transportation is provided. Check weekly email to register. Save the date. Back to School Pep Rally, Sunday, July 31st, 2022. The children's and youth choirs will sing for the Back to School Pep Rally Worship Experience on Sunday, July 31st, 2022. Registration is required. Check weekly email to register and see rehearsal dates. We have returned to indoor, in-person worship for registered attendees. To register, check the weekly email or the church website. If the registration link is not working properly, please contact the church office for assistance. First-time guests, if you want to connect with Friendship, text the word FRIEND to 404-637-2223 or complete a Connect card located in the back of the pew and give it to an usher. Check the website and weekly email for Life Groups material. To those of you joining us by way of YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Select the bell so that you will be notified when Friendship is streaming on YouTube. If you are joining us by way of Facebook, we invite you to like us, follow us, and share our posts with others to help get the good news out about Jesus Christ. For more information and for the latest updates and details, be sure to visit friendshipatl.org, join the Friendship Weekly email blast, or contact the church office. Be sure to follow us, like us, and subscribe to stay connected to Friendship Community Church.